I said it's time for Hemp in a Headline. Yeah, it's time for Hemp in a Headline. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by to the Chief Freedom Channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is a little segment we do over here at the Chief Freedom Channel called Hemp and a Headline, and it's where we have some heavenly hemp with you fine ladies and gentlemen, and we discuss a headline, a topic. So today I'm going to be smoking on some lemon cherry gelato from the great THCA Go over there and check them out, ladies and gents, and use the promo code CHIEF22 at checkout and knock off 10%. Cheers! Very lovely, very lovely. There's some viral videos taking place. It's the videos of, I avoid people now, or why I avoid people. I'm 51 years old and retired now, and I avoid people. Well, I started avoiding people in my early 20s. And why I avoided people? The Milgram experiment. And that's going to bring up today's real topic, the Milgram experiment. Why do I avoid people? The Milgram experiment. That's why. Look at that resin ring. So what is the Milgram experiment? Well, to get into the Milgram experiment, we got to first look at who developed it. And that is the American psychologist, Dr. Stanley Milgram. He's a famous psychologist from Yale University, and he developed the Milgram experiment in 1962. Dr. Stanley was studying the Nuremberg trial, and he began to theorize that there was a certain percentage of people that had a sort of a natural default to obedience to authority figures. And he theorized this, and he developed this experiment in 1962 at Yale University to test it. So Dr. Stanley Milgram, he set the Milgram experiment up. They ran ads in the paper to have test subjects come in, and they would bring 2 test subjects in to a room. There was a doctor in, and they set them down, and they explained to them, they said, one of you are going to be the teacher subject. The other is going to be the learner subject. So they took the teacher subject, they set him in a chair in front of this big machine that was 15 volts all the way up to 450 volts. And, it said extreme danger shock at the 450 volt level. And the learner subject goes over into the next room, and this machine is hooked up to him. The teacher subject is instructed that you're to, go through these series of questions, and for every question that the learner subject gets wrong, well, you're to administer a shock. And as they go along with the questions, of course, the questions get harder and the voltage increases. Now, unbeknownst to the teacher subject, they're the real guinea pig. They're the test subject. And the learner is in on it. They're part of Yale University. They're actors. The doctor is an actor. It's a 6'7" guy with a lab coat, stethoscope, doctor name tag to really portray that authority figure. And of course, the shocking machine is just a prop. And of course, the learner is instructed to, answer the questions incorrectly, so the teacher subject has to administer a shock. And as they go through with the experiment and the questions are answered wrongly and the shocks are administered, the learner subject begins to show signs of distress. They begin to, scream, "I don't want to be a part of this experiment anymore. I just want to let you know I have a health issue. I have a serious heart condition." And of course, the teacher subject looks back at the doctor, and the doctor doesn't use any type of anger or forceful wording. It just simply say something to the effect of, "This is a very important test, and it's important that you continue with the experiment. This is very, very important work, and it's very important that you continue with this experiment today." So they would continue with this experiment up to get to 250 volts. And the learner subject is instructed to go silent, to go unresponsive, which is indicative of a serious health issue. Now, the teacher subject is asking questions, and they're not even getting a response. And of course, they look back at the authority figure, and the authority figure explains a non-response is a wrong answer. It's very important work, and we must continue with this experiment today. Now, what percentage would go all the way to the 450 volt level? Yes, what percentage, after the learner subject at 250 volts has gone quiet now, non-responsive, what percentage continued to 450 volts? Now, Dr. Stanley Milgram and the top psychologist of Yale University, they got together and they speculated that it would be less than 1%. They theorized, speculated that only psychopaths, people, serial killer type tendencies, that want to see humans suffer and tortured and shit like that. That's the only individuals that would go to that point. So what was the percentage? Shockingly, pun intended, 67% went all the way to the 450 volt level. 100% would go to the 250 volt level, where the learner subject went quiet, went unresponsive. Man, that is some scary motherfucking shit. And when I read about that in my early 20s, I couldn't believe that shit. But it began to answer a lot of questions about things, about the human psyche. I could see people that was much smarter, higher IQ than me, much more successful, but certain areas, charlatans could, fool them and shit. So when I read about the Milgram experiment, it began to explain a lot about the human psyche and how, humans are very, very impressionable, and some bullshit, just fake guru, con man, authority figure can talk people into doing some crazy shit. There's a great psychological operations expert. His name is Chase Hughes, and he's had some great podcasts on Danny Jones, Joe Rogan, probably a lot of other podcasters, but he talks a lot about the Milgram experiment, and he has a beautiful way of summarizing it. How did he put that thing? Something to the effect of, a total stranger, authority figure, can, in about 45 minutes, talk 67% of humans into torturing and killing another human. And that is fucking crazy. And I think he does a lot of sales seminars for big business and corporations, talking about sales. Yeah, you guys and gals out there in sales, if some fake guru con man can do that to people, whatever product or service you slinging, you ought to be slinging a lot of them motherfuckers. And I'm slinging THCA flowers. So get over there to shophellomary.com. Get over there to THCAking.com. Get over there to THCAsmallbuds.com and use the promo CHIEF22 at checkout and knock off 10% from your order. It is very important that you continue with the experiment. So, why do I avoid people? Because of Dr. Stanley Milgram. Yeah, I want to touch base with the 33% that got up and said no more. I find too that a lot of hemp cannabis users, they question authority because of the lies they know about the plant. The so-called authority figures. You can see it right now in the state of Texas. What's going on there? The authority figures and their fucking lies. So, and really, in reality, what is an authority figure? Of course, you got individuals that are, know a lot about, or experts in certain subjects, but take them out of that field and put them in another lane. They're fucking idiots like everybody else. I'm sure somewhere there's something that you're pretty much an expert on, a hobby or something that you enjoy studying, that you know a lot that the average person doesn't know about. So in reality, what is an authority figure? Well, the powers to be know what it is, and they know exactly how to play that shit. And they play us like motherfucking harps from hell. There's certain ones, they understand exactly how the human psyche works and how humans have a natural default to authority figures. They understand it, and they utilize that shit. They execute with it. And if you want to see real life examples of the Milgram experiment, all we got to do is just go back a few years ago and just see, that 2/3 will go right along with the craziest shit you've ever seen, heard, and that's just, right here on YouTube. If I say something, hell, they don't like hemp and cannabis. So if I start talking about, let's just say it rhymes with bogan, that thing, and another thing that rhymes with an axe, The short version rhymes with an axe, Those crazy things, You got, and 2/3 went right along with it, son. So all you need is a catastrophe, the right pressure, and people will fold, son. Threaten their jobs and see what'll happen. Another crazy example is the Jonestown massacre with Jim Jones and the People's Temple. Look that shit up, from the 1970s. How can I say this too without YouTube fucking taking my video down? Not only did this fucker get people, it rhymes with off, to boff themselves, hell, they boffed their children. What fucking... 2/3 of people will go along with some of the craziest shit you can believe, son. The Jeffrey Epstein case. And You got the famous pathologist that did the autopsy, that Dr. Michael Bodden, that said, everything was indicative of strangulation. The bones broke in the neck. That doesn't happen from, off boffing yourself. But now you've got Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. And they come out and they give their little speech that yes, he boffed himself there, and they're the head of the FBI, the authority figures that push the narrative, Respect my authority. You will respect my authority. And of course they push a narrative, but I don't think 2/3 is buying it anymore. But in certain situations, a lot of people's beginning to wake up. It's more than 33% now. 33, that divine number. That's the individuals that I want to touch and have in my life as friends. That's that 33%, that divine number. That's who I want part of the Chief Freedom family, man. That 33% is the ones that, said no more. The 33%, I truly believe, are the ones that will change the world for the better. Because I think when it comes to freedom overall, 2/3 of people want the illusion of freedom. I don't think they really want true freedom. They want the illusion, and when there's some type of catastrophe or disaster, of course they want to look back at that. They want to have that authority figure. I think a lot of people don't want to think for themselves. They'd rather a lot of thinking that is their responsibility. They'd rather give that responsibility over to a government authority figure, or hand that over to some religious authority figure, or maybe a doctor, therapist authority figure. But in reality, you are the authority. Who knows you better than you? You're the fucking authority. And you are born into a great nation, and forefathers to give you a document to say, dude, you got unalienable rights given to you by our creator, dude. So get the fuck out there and think for your motherfucking selves. Question authority. And hey, I've been yakking and rambling, but yeah, that's the reason why I avoid most people, is Dr. Stanley Milgram and the Milgram experiment. But if you got anything out of this, ladies and gents, please like and subscribe. Go down and comment. Hit the bell notification. With that being said, have a nice day, and we'll hip you later.